You're listening to the Back Patio Sessions with Anne-Marie Hinton. Pull up a chair, pour a glass of wine, and get ready to laugh, cry, and everything in between as we talk about unleashing creativity, working through fear, and rebounding from heartbreak.
Thank you for joining us for the Back Patio Sessions. Think of it like sitting on a back patio with your best friend, wading through happiness, heartbreak, accomplishments, failures, and all of the things in between. Today, we get to interview somebody who I think is incredibly dynamic and funny, and we're going to get into all the things. So welcome, KristelleSiarza. I'm going to give you a little bit of an intro and then ask you to jump in and introduce yourself. But Kristelle is owner and CEO of Siarza Social Digital, Jonathan's mom, a Zeta Tau Alpha alumni, I hope I said that okay, founder of the API Business Collaborative, serial entrepreneur, makeup influencer in training. We will definitely talk about that. 49ers fan, I guess we'll all forgive you, and proud Filipina. Welcome, Kristelle.
Thanks, Anne-Marie, and congratulations on your new show. I know this is going to be a really, really successful podcast, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it on air. So congratulations on taking this big leap, and I'm so honored to be your first guest.
Thank you. I keep trying to think, what is missing for me? What is it that I want to hear from other people? And it always comes down to, I really appreciate the podcasts that say 10 ways to whatever, right? Like how to level up at work, how to level up at home. But what about just the kinds of stories that you literally tell each other when you're sitting down over a glass of wine?
Yeah.
That's what I want to hear and what I want to listen to. So that's what I'm hoping that this does for people.
Absolutely. And I think too, like, especially with the challenges of working from home and COVID, I think both of us, like, we were always those type of people to come home at 7 o'clock after a glass of wine or a cocktail or several. And so I think that we're all kind of longing for those authentic, like really candid conversations. So I'm thrilled that you've created this awesome podcast to really bring us all together.
Yeah. For us extroverts, man, this year has been hard on our social hearts, the need to be in connection and physically with people and to get our energy and feed off each other. So actually that is going to be my first question to you because it's relevant and we are all still in it. This year has been quite the year, full of discomfort and isolation and evaluation, I'm sure. How are you dealing with it?
So there are good days and there are bad days. And if, there was a time where I felt guilty that things were going okay. I'm, with Siarza Social Digital that's been around for 6 years now. I was always dreading a pandemic let me take that back. I never thought that I would live through a pandemic. I was fearing a recession, especially as a business owner. I started my career in 2008. I met you in 2010, and we were just coming up from the recession at that time. And I said to myself, if I ever do become a business owner, I hope that I can survive momentum or a situation like this. And I freaked out. I asked my boyfriend to get a job because he had just finished school. I asked for as much help as I possibly could financially with lenders and vendors and even my son's school because I didn't know. Like I thought that this was going to be it. I thought we were going to be done. And all of a sudden, I just got, and I hope we can curse on this show, but I got my high gear and I said, I have to save my employees, every single one of them. I need to keep on the plan and the track that I wanted to be on, which was grow the company. And I need to make sure that we survive. And so not only did we, but the team just kept on plugging along and just was phenomenal. And they focused on growth. They were able to train themselves. They were able to really slow down for a minute because it always has been hectic. It's in agency life, it always is. And so it was peaceful for a little bit. And I felt bad saying that. I felt bad because I know that there's so many other of my colleagues and my friends that are just having such a crappy time right now. And then there's some moments where I'm like longing for a beer on a patio and not feeling like I had to be scared. Like my favorite moment during the pandemic, one of my favorite moments of the pandemic was like going to Sawmill by myself and actually wearing a dress and putting makeup on. Like it was, and like all of us have kind of gone through those highs and lows. Like my boyfriend and I were talking about it last night. Like I'm so lucky that we made it through the pandemic without skipping a beat in our relationship. My son and I like got to spend quality time together, which again couldn't have happened if I wasn't working from home and he wasn't working from home. So there's definitely been some really, really great bright sides, but then there's some really scary times that have happened throughout this that I think we all just had to get used to. I don't like it, but we all had to get used to that roller coaster of emotions during the whole thing.
Do you feel like you're on a roll now? Like you feel comfortable, you know what you've got to do?
I don't, I say that and then something happened. Something's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to jinx myself, like I've seen what you've gone through during some of the pandemic, and you and I, like early on, we were like, okay, how do we prepare for opening? How do we get the marketing together? Everything that we were talking about, like you and I were talking about, we've either executed it and it's gone to plan, or we just freaking threw it out the window. It's too unpredictable. And I think that for me, I remember learning at a really, really early late age as an event planner, like don't be upset if things don't go to plan. So I just kind of learned that over time.
Right. One of the things that has been really interesting to me in this year is how often we spend time and treasure and energy creating these elaborate plans that then we execute on and analyze at the end of the year. And that's how we do X, Y, and Z to be able to prove growth and value and that kind of thing. And then this year it was like, well, all those things that we planned for, not going to happen. At least 50 to 60% of the tools that are typically in a marketer's playbook out the window, because we can't be pulling people to events or into spaces with each other. And then also just the fatigue around social media. It used to be an escape. Now it's kind of the only lifeline. So I think a lot of people are feeling like, geez, I can't be on a screen all day long, which poses challenges for people who only have digital marketing as the option to bring business in. So it has been kind of, I would say the same thing that you did, which is part of me just feels on edge all the time and anxious around how do we keep the train on the tracks and how do we achieve? And then the other part of me is like, man, I did not realize how go all the time in our lives really took away from some of these more thoughtful, deep things that we get to experience. Being home with my husband, my dog, just like you said about your boyfriend and your son, has been a total game changer for me. My husband was saying, you get up at 5 a.m., you hit the gym. I don't see you again until 6, 7, 8 p.m. every night. It's been really nice to actually spend time together for the first time in who knows how many years during the week. So there are certainly things that I hope to keep doing post-pandemic and quarantine, but also other things that I can't wait. I never thought I would say this. I cannot wait to go back to business luncheons.
I think that's so hilarious too, because like how many times, I mean, you've produced all of the ones in the past that are just phenomenal, like the best rubber chicken lunches that I've seen, right? And then I think about like your post of your dog, like super excited that you're home all the time. Like my cat hated me for like the first 2 months because she was like, why the hell are you here? Like, I get that. And there's moments where I'm like, oh, thank God, I don't have to go to a luncheon and schmooze and be nice. But at the same time, like, I think some of the things that I do miss is like the chase to connect with people that you really need to connect with at a luncheon. And like, I can't tell you like how much my business card budget has dropped tremendously by not having to go to all of these things. But, and I always remember too, like, there are times where I've had some like serious quality conversations where I've met some really, really phenomenal people. Like I met half the board at DVRC through actually being at a board or meeting them at a luncheon, or sitting down and like actually learning something and having those moments rather than doing it on a screen. Like I'm with you. Like I get that, but we at Siarza we work with a lot of nonprofits that had to pivot really quickly with their fundraising opportunities.
Right.
And that was one, I brought that up with a nonprofit that was interested in working with us. And she said, it took a lot of work, but we made 65% of it. So 65% of what we expected. And I was like, but do you realize how much creativity that you had where, nonprofits struggle with making a luncheon different from the other fundraiser or the next one. But you had the opportunity to actually separate yourself this year. I don't know if you realize that. And she's like, well, yeah, you're right about that. So yeah, I think I do miss the luncheon to a certain degree. I don't miss the dress up part. Like if I can just be in t-shirts and jeans for all the luncheons, like I think I've pissed off a couple of business leaders because I've shown up like that. Like I don't miss the fact that I have to rent and put on like droves and droves of makeup, but at the same time I kind of do. So
I know. Why is it the grass is always greener?
I know, right? Well,
human nature that does that to us.
I know, but think about it though. Like Anne-Marie, you and I have had a life where and you and I kind of teeter on a different level too. But like from 8 to 5, we're Anne-Marie Hinton and KristelleSiarza. But then after 5 o'clock, we're us. Like we're authentically us. Like we're the people that loves our hot roommates as much as we do, right? And we love our pets and we love our fur babies and our kids, right? But it's just one of the things I think that I don't know about you, but like I've learned is that I don't have to put on that facade anymore. I don't have to be, KristelleSiarza, CEO between 8 to 5 anymore. I don't have to put on that show. I can just be me with pajamas on and t-shirts and jeans. And I'm telling you, like, I'm struggling with that. I'm struggling with the fact that we have to go back to that life, but I also enjoy it too. I don't know about you, dude. It's kind of how I feel.
I do think that there are certain things that have been freeing for sure. Previously, and I'm sure everybody listening has had this experience, you have to walk a fine line between being authentically you and being professional. And sometimes those things don't match up, but it is really nice to see people giving each other grace around learning, around technology, around family life, around how you show up to a Zoom meeting, whether you look like you're in pajamas or not, and that has been freeing to me. The other thing is not having to spend half my day in a car. I'm feeling the exact same way about that. As part of me misses it, being out and about and getting to listen to podcasts when I'm driving from meeting to meeting. And the other part of me, wow, I have all this time back to get more work done and to actually fit in the workouts that I need every day without having to wake up at 5 a.m. anymore to do it. And so it's interesting to go through it and just see the pros and cons that come from the changing workplace. And I do hope when we decide how our work-life balance works moving forward and how our work situations are going to be set up, some people might be thriving in remote work. I can tell you, I am not one of those people. I'm extroverted. I get my energy from other people, and I feel like it's harder to be creative sitting here alone in my house every day versus being out in the world. And so I think there are going to be a lot of people like me too, who want to be back in the office setting and want to be back, for purposes of productivity in a lot of ways.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think we've all also, there's things that we also don't miss about the work. Like you and I have said it at some point in time in our careers, like there's drama at work. I don't have to worry about that right now. Like it's kind of nice, even though one thing I really, really miss is like my team. Like I see them every day. Like, and I don't have to see them every day to the point where like, I have to argue about like, don't warm up fish in the microwave kind of arguments anymore, but like, I also miss them. Like it's actually been really interesting, which is kind of I know that I mentioned that I'm like, there's one concern that I have about women going back to the workforce, But like my team, one's pregnant and one already had a baby during the pandemic. And I'm like, talk about a great time to be at home and not feel the pressure of having to come into the office because everybody else is there too. And our family, we ended up getting to know everybody's families because they would just pass by on the Zoom call in the background. The kids already started to recognize my voice whenever, so-and-so is on the call with me, the changing environment of the office, I think is going to be when we all start to go back, I think we definitely will miss each other. But at the same time, I think we're all kind of anxious to see each other too. So I don't know.
Let's talk about women in the workplace in the pandemic, because I share that deep concern with you that, women disproportionately have had to exit the workplace to be able to, make sure their kids can go to school and to be sure everything is on the tracks at home. And it freaks me out that so many people have had to make that choice at this time versus having the option to do it all, which we kind of know is a lie anyway, being able to do it at all and do it all. But
not with that attitude. Damn.
I was interviewing someone recently on a different podcast, and she said she believes we can have it all. We just can't have it all at one time. And I love that.
Yeah. That's like New Mexico rain. Like we want some rain, but not all the time. Like not all at once. I read an article in the New York Times where they cataloged 3 lives of women in different parts of the United States. One was a paralegal, one was I think a nonprofit executive, and then another one worked in politics. I think that's what it was. And one had a kid that was special needs. She was, she had an autistic daughter. Another one had 2 kids, and another one had twins or something like that. And I think that article was eye-opening, where it made me get really emotional, because I again, I've been battling with guilt, and I've also been battling with how a mom feels, right? Many people actually don't know that I've talked about my son my whole life, but some people never realize that I actually have a split custody for the first up until he was 7. He didn't live with me in the same city, and it was really difficult. But now we have a split household, and my son's dad and I co-parent really well. And his girlfriend and my boyfriend, we get our place, and we stick to it. We're dedicated to him. So I know that sometimes we don't have that pressure of having to watch Jonathan, but there was a moment where I snapped at him, and I was like, why did you fall asleep during your English class? No wonder that teacher's so pissed at you. And then his social studies teacher started to become a big smart ass to her. And I was like, why did you do that? Why did you think that was cool? And so I realized that the pressure from faculty, the pressure of being a mom, I had to let go and just say, I got to cut him some slack, right? I got to cut him some slack. And, this is hard on him as much as it's hard on me. If not, it's harder on him. He doesn't have a social life. He doesn't have friends to hang out with. It's just different, right? And then on my end, I thought about my team. They're all having babies, and they all have, one of them had to move up to Santa Fe temporarily because she was alone. She didn't want to be in her apartment by herself. So she's been with her family for almost a damn year. You know what I mean? And I think that the big lesson is there's so much that I am worried about with women going back to the workforce, especially with moms. But there's a moment where we all have to let go at some point in time. I had to, and we have to say, like you said, I can't do it all. It's not going to be perfect. Is he going to live, and is he going to be a good member of society? That's all that I want for my son. Then yes. Right. Yeah, we're paying for his education. Yeah, we're on financial aid. But as long as he puts himself a full, he puts in 100%, and he says he puts in 100%, that's all that matters to me. I can't get mad at him. Right. And then at work, we all had to laugh about the fact that there's crying babies and barking dogs where they can hear each other on Zoom calls, and one dog barks in Santa Fe and the other one in Albuquerque hears it. We just all had to just throw it out the window and just say, you know what? It is what it is. Like it is what it is. And I think the thing that I'm really trying to get at, just to kind of stay focused on the message of what, what do I want to say to employers that have moms leaving the workforce? You have got to make this more challenging and forget about your profit and put your employees first, period. You have got to treat them like family, and you have got to let them have the opportunity to be flexible. I never forget about how when new team members that have worked in corporate environments that come to us and they're like, I'm so sorry, Kristelle, I have a dentist appointment, or I have to go pick up something for my kid. Like they ask for permission. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. Just get your work done and do a good job. Create those types of cultures, man. That's really important for women to stay in the workforce.
Definitely. I think that's really challenging for a lot of companies because they have not previously been comfortable operating that way. I had this conversation with a business owner recently who just cannot stand the work from home model because he can't see people in the office. And I pushed back on him to say, well, you would rather just be able to see somebody sitting there from 8 to 5. And what if they're not performing at work versus seeing the work that they produce for you every week and not seeing them from 8 to 5. It's like these old habits and senses of norm in the workplace. A lot of people really have struggled, especially leaders, especially experienced leaders, to let that happen. But I think you bring up an excellent point that, if leaders of companies don't go that way, if they don't provide people the opportunity to be successful at home and at work, that they're not going to keep or get the best talent.
Oh yeah. 100%. And so back to that person, whoever that person is, like struggling, if I worry about productivity, there's something called a time card, right? That not only is there a time card, but in agency life, as you know, you have to bill to every client that you work on, right? You have milestones, you have project management, you have a lot of these little details and nuances to help you move forward. That should give you confidence, not seeing a person in a cubicle from 8 to 5, right? Look at the project, look at the task, look at the hours, look at that as a sense of productivity. And then you can have faith in your team that they get the work done on a daily basis. Or one of the things I learned during the pandemic that we started to do was check in. Like, it's okay to actually talk to your employees and asking them how their day is going, or is everything okay with their family member that might be sick? Like, it's okay to have like personable check-ins and actually not talk about work. And it gets me angry. I'm sorry. It gets me angry when people are like, well, I don't like that 8 to 5 and I'd rather work from home. It's like, dude, you have got to let go of those old school practices because it's 2021, man. Like what happened in 1970 in corporate or on corporate in a corporate office is not how business is going to be conducted here in the future.
I hear you, and I don't disagree, but I think there's more people than we realize who still feel that discomfort. And you're a great example of somebody who, you're all in on letting the work speak for itself versus the time. And I think it will be interesting after the pandemic to see how many people who have now been forced into proving the work from home model, how many of them are pleasantly surprised. I've heard from a couple who are so excited because they never would have figured out technology the way that they had to.
Yeah.
They never would have taken the time to, set up certain structures or project management software or any of that, had they not been forced into it. So I do know a lot of people feel excited about those changes, but it took being forced into that for them to get comfortable with it.
Yeah, they kind of had to strike the match, or the match had to be lit for them.
So. Yeah. So what was the defining moment? I think a lot of people in the pandemic, another thing that's been interesting / cool is how many people are reevaluating what they do, what they want to do, what they want to do next. And as somebody who took that leap to try something new, what was that like? And what advice would you have for somebody who might be considering doing something themselves?
Richard, you're talking like back to 2014 when I left my job.
Yep.
Type of leap. Have I told you this story? I think so.
I don't know if you have, but.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for those that like are listening and don't know our backstory, like, you and I have been always in the marketing industry in some way, shape, or form. And, when I still laugh about the fact that we interviewed for the same job, like I still giggle about that so much. And I'm like, so grateful that you got it. I really am grateful that you got it. And, it actually was part of my entire start of my company, right? Somebody came up to me and said, a mutual friend of ours, and was like, hey, if you know of anybody for this director of marketing position, let me know. And I was like, actually, yeah, I'm interested. But then I really realized, like, my previous employer, which, you know who it is, like, I just wasn't happy, right? I was and I wasn't, right? Again, it goes back to the old school practices. It was an 8 to 5, it was professional. Somebody got mad at me once for not brushing my hair when I went to work. Like, I know I should have brushed my hair.
Oh, brush your hair.
I know, but like, it was like, I'm always a hot mess. Like, how long have you known me for, right? But again, like, I always look at my quality of work rather than my looks and my appearance as something that, I didn't care, but I still don't to a certain degree. But anyway, so back in 2014, I was working my last event, the greatest international tourism event that we all know and love, in Albuquerque. And I was like, yep, this is my last event. So I kind of knew. And there's a couple things that happened behind the scenes that I saw the writing on the wall. But I had the support of my late aunt, who was like my mentor. Like, you to Jennifer Rudin was my aunt to me, And I was like, hey, I'm thinking about starting my own business. She's like, I was waiting for you to do it, right? And it was my mom. And I get emotional even thinking about that too, because my mom and I have been through so much. But she was just like, I knew you would always be, but I'm not telling your dad because he's gonna panic. That's what my mom said. Yeah. And so, and I don't tell this story the way that I do, because it's a little bit different, because I think that people forget that whenever you go on a leap, like there has to be a band of people behind you to know that they can really like help you out. And so I mentioned them because once I got that like word of approval, I was like,
I can do this.
Yeah, I could do it. And so during the event, I put in my resignation for a month out, put transition plans into place. I was dating a guy that was a business owner at the time. And he said, he helped me put my business plan together. Him and I are not together anymore, but at least I got free advice. So there's some benefit out of that relationship. I quit my job. My last event was opening Dave & Buster's with that team. I quit my job. It was my last day at work. The people that I left with were great. Some of them were just like, we're not going anywhere. And they were like, no, I'm going somewhere. I'm going to go places, and I'm going to show you that I'm going to go places. And I woke up the next morning on Monday on my boyfriend's couch now ex-boyfriend's couch at 4:30 in the morning. And I said, I just left my comfortable paycheck to start my own company. And I had already 3 clients by the end of the day, that day. That's how it all started. I wanted to disrupt the model. I've always wanted to be an agency owner. I knew that digital could be on its own. So I took the leap because I knew that it was the right time. Now, this was in 2014 when social media became a thing as a business in 2008 and 2009. And so one of the things that I tell business owners is that you're going to feel when the time is right. I felt like the time was right. I was in the middle of my business degree. I was already teaching at UNM. At the time I had a boyfriend. I felt like I was on top of the world, and I was ready for anything that was thrown my way. And it just had to be the right time. And so that it was, like I said, I'll never forget those days, because it was great. I loved every minute of it, even with the shitty parts of it.
So. It was fun to watch you too, have the guts to do it and build it. And, I think there are a lot of people here in Albuquerque who, anywhere, but here in Albuquerque especially, who are feeling that pull and they just can't seem to get to the place of, I quit my job, got to do it now,
Yeah.
But kudos to you for doing it and everything you've built. And speaking of other things you've built, this year you launched the API collective. Am I saying that correctly?
Almost. So it's called the Asian Business Collaborative. So thanks. Yeah. So that whole story came out of the pandemic, right? And I knew, it's funny how you mentioned, like, there are things that sometimes we all have to, we were kind of catapulted into it because of the pandemic kind of made us. I've always wanted to create some type of chamber or business organization that really shows representation for our API community, Asian and Pacific Islander community. And it was the story of hearing, India Palace in Santa Fe being vandalized for racist remarks. Other business owners that were telling me they didn't get the PPP funding because of the fact that they felt that they were Chinese, and that was causing problems. I can't tell you how much I'm so proud of this team that of people that have not only come together, but the businesses that they were like, of course we've needed this. Nobody's been able to pull it off. And it took experience from building a board with Domestic Violence Resource Center. It took experience from running a business. It also took experience with working with a Chamber of Commerce. The Greater Albuquerque Chamber of Commerce is where I started my career, where we met, right? And I was like, I'm just so glad that I finally had that experience. Like the icing on the cake was my leadership at DVRC as being the president of the board. And I was like, all right, we have to do this. Like I always ask myself whenever I make big decisions, am I going to regret not doing it later? If I am, I go and do it because I don't want to regret it. And so I felt like I was going to regret it. I didn't want anybody else to do this and fail. Our mission is to promote prosperity with a cultural competency lens. And people are believing in the mission. I have had nothing but great support from not only the new staff that we built, but the community. The community's really stepped up and really helped us out. So
that is so exciting. Thank you so much for your time and for everything. I wish I could talk to you for another 3 hours. About business, about love, about life, about all the things. But where can people get a hold of you if they have an interest in either the organization you just talked about, or they want to work with you on the social media side, or they just want to follow you because you are hilarious?
I don't know about hilarious, just more like unfiltered. MissKristelle.com is my personal website where I post things about some of the events, workshops I might be participating in. So if you're looking for really unsolicited advice, I love to share that with the community. On that website, you'll find connections to the Asian Business Collaborative, or you can just Google it, or go to asianpibc.org or Siarza.com. Siarza is, like I said, one of the fastest growing agencies at the moment, and we're really thrilled to work with so many different industries. So just visit our website at Siarza.com. So
cool. Well, thank you for everything that you do in Albuquerque. Thank you for brightening my life specifically in so many ways. And I hope to see you in person soon.
Thanks again for this great opportunity. And I wish you nothing but the best for this awesome, awesome podcast.
Thanks.